Obviously for our team, but also the fans. I think that's the highest home attendance for an opener since 2010. So I know that there was a lot of work that went into the season ticket campaign and a lot of things that go beyond just the football staff and the football players. Josh and his crew and the athletic department made a lot to make tonight happen. So to have those people leave, there was a great crowd walking off the field in that little area where you can see 4 or 5 layers up was really pretty awesome. Give credit to Toledo. Coach Candle's got a really good football team. Knew that coming in, and they proved it here tonight. A quarterback that can make a difference. I tried to grab as many of those guys afterwards. Hope they win them all because that's a team that's capable of doing that. But I am proud of our team. You know, classic, grinded, gritty. I knew they were going to be an explosive team on offense. Gave too many things away at half. We had 9 penalties for 90 yards. That's just not us. And you know, they had 5 for 20, right? So I made sure I pointed that out to the officials as well, right? Like when I balance this out a little bit, but obviously we created some of those things on ourselves. So in the second half, just had the 1 penalty, but it was critical. Obviously, Gabe's roughing. Those 2, Tariq had a personal foul in the first half. Gabe had the personal foul. Those led to 10 points, right? And you look at the game as it happened. That's the stuff you can't do and expect to win, especially in our conference, right? So I thought Luke Altmaier came in. Really probably has 1 ball that he wants to take back, but just his presence, his demeanor, that guy taking the field, I just looked at him, he gave me a wink, right? And then at the end there, when I told him we needed to get to the 25 to feel good about a field goal. Once we crossed that threshold, I just kind of looked at him and he said, I got you, right? Just his presence, his calmness, his demeanor was very impressive. And then Casey Washington, he's just a guy, you know, his journey, his story, a lot of you guys know it, right? Like when I got here, he had some thoughts in his mind and went to obviously to Wake and then came back. The NCAA let him come back, and you know, from the game-winning 2-point play against Penn State to really last spring, I just thought this kid's playing with a purpose. Had a really good spring, had a really good summer, had a great fall camp. Got a little bit dinged up, so he missed about 10 days, and it was killing him to get back out there. For him to make that play at the end, obviously it was a good throw, but he went up and that was something special to come down with that. And he gave that whole team, our whole team, a chance to win. So. Got a couple guys banged up. I don't think anybody be significant, but don't have any news on that front. I know that T. Strain, he had a concussion. That's why he couldn't come back, but everything else I think was soft tissue cramping. Isaiah had a little knee issue there, but I don't think it's anything too serious, so we'll know more about that as we go. We got a quick turnaround, so we'll put this one to bed pretty early tomorrow and jump into our Kansas prep. We've already got a lot of Kansas prep in that we got to do, but it's just a short turnaround physically. Especially to travel on Thursday, it's kind of like you double dip on a short week. So we'll look forward to that opportunity. With that, open up for questions. None? You guys good?
What's the difference of learning from a win than learning from a disappointment?
Well, there is a lot to be learned, right? And there was, you know, as a head coach, this is my 15th season. I've really felt every year I've been a head coach that you learn more in game 1 to game 2 than any other point in the season. You should get better, right? I've prided one of the things that I've made reference to all out of season is, you know, I've definitely been a coach that you know, you play yourself in a position to win games in September. You put yourself in a position to be special in October, and you win championships in November, and we didn't do that a year ago. So it's been a huge push, but to win this game here against a very good football team, to taste that and have success, I think is big, because there's definitely some of our better players didn't play well today, right? And I think that's going to be a coaching point for us, especially on the defense side of the ball. I think we got to take note of.
You said on the radio, sometimes last year you might have lost that game. Is that maybe the difference between this year,
you know,
where you are?
Somebody said this to me the other day, like this. This is UTSA, and UTSA was a good football team then, right? But this team, to me, has won, right? They were a champion a year ago, went on some successful runs last year. I definitely knew they knew how to win. I thought we have repped enough to be that. It's probably not just as clean as this is, but I think the battle through element that we did, and then to have Luke Altmaier take the field down and to execute the way he did, and then just a little thing, but our clock management, our way to put ourselves in a position to kick that game. I called timeout. I had 2 timeouts, and I knew that if you were kicking the ball on 3rd down, if we had a bad snap or anything, I could just kill it, call a timeout, and still kick the game-winning field goal. And felt good enough if we had a little bit of time on the clock, we'd be able to run it down. That's what happened.
Did you expect to play as many defensive players, especially up front, as you did today?
Yeah, we you know, one of the things that we really felt last year after the season is we probably, in the back half of the season, had played Johnny and Keith and those guys a little too much in the front half, right? So we wanted to get set in there. Bryce Barnes had a really good fall camp. Said McConnell, Denzel Daxon, we were excited to get him out there. I thought T-Rod did some things. We have some, Jared Beatty's right on the cusp of jumping into some of the outside linebacker repetitions. I thought Dylan Rosiak came in. I think he might have been second leading tackler, and he's been a guy that we've been excited to get out there. Obviously, Tariq Barnes, continues to play well. But when T. Strain went down, we were trying to move around Miles Scott, and that put Elijah McCantos in there. That really meant. Now we had a couple corners that were just came back. Tyson Rooks we didn't have today. He would have been a huge part of our program, and he'll be back to practice. He practiced this week. We just didn't feel good enough to play him.
Coach, can you talk a little bit more about Luke Altmaier's performance, especially just being his first significant start?
Yeah, again, like I said, I can't say much more than I did. He played really well. Thought he had great poise, great confidence. I thought Barry had a really good understanding of what the plan was with him. Going into that last series, I talked about where we needed to get to. We were watching to see it was going to be a field goal to win or a field goal to tie, right? So obviously we would have taken a touchdown if it would have played out that way, but I thought just his presence, his demeanor, the whole game was pretty special.
Was there a moment at all in fall camp or in the summer that you saw everything kind of come together to really just in a new environment?
No, I think it's a steady after 15 years of doing this, like there's little things I pick up on. I think you guys could probably tell by the way I talk about I really like this team. I like working with them. I can get after them and they respond very, very well. Like I don't enjoy being a person that does that, but like if I need to, I can unleash on these guys and it's not a demeaning, it's just a teaching, right? And that's one thing I really like about this group is they accept coaching, they understand, and they teach me, man. Like I promise you, I've learned some things this camp through these guys. It's been pretty awesome to be a part of. There wasn't just one thing. I just think we got a good football team that, I don't know how many games we'll win. I don't know how many of them we're going to run away with, but I think we'll be in a lot of games. We'll be scrappy. We'll have fun. We got to stay healthy in certain positions. We got to, we can't do things to beat ourselves. Like we had 10 penalties for 100 yards. You just can't do that, right? So those things are going to be some things to clean up. And then we botched the 4th and 1, right? That would have been I think if we punched that thing in there, that's probably going to change the game and put ourselves in a better position. So, and then the interception, it was one play really that Luke would do, but that was a big play.
A lot of big plays tonight for both teams, but the Miles Scott pick six,
huge.
Where does that rank for you? It seemed to change a lot of the momentum.
Yeah, so I've said this to my staff, I've said it to Miles, so I wanted to move Miles a year ago, right? He was a non-scholarship player that I could see had an instinct and a skill set that was very, very gifted, and so I wanted to move him to defense, but it was a kid that he was paying his own way, and I'm like, I can't make a kid that I'm not paying for school switch a position, but then we put him on scholarship last spring, and I went to him one day. I said, "Here's what I'm thinking, right? I think you're a defensive player. I think you can play offense, but I think your role will be much more significant." And he took it and ran. And I was just sitting out there before the game today, and he just looks like a defensive player. He's building himself up, and that play was a read and break. I think he's gonna be a very good player for a long time here. He's very special.
What the difference
that
is?
4th and 4 play, is that one of those moments where you look at a quarterback and say, yeah, that's a guy that has something, or that's a moment?
Yeah, it's a good question. So anytime, there's probably a lot of times that you guys just think, but on that series when we got a 1st and 10, whatever yard line we were at, I gave the word that we use, which means Barry, you have 4 downs, right? So now Barry is allowed to call a series that puts himself in that moment. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we had a 3rd and 7, if I'm not correct, and we gained like 3 yards on it was a little pitch play to our running back, right? I think was that the play, and we sequenced that play, right? And I said to Barry, "You feel good?" He goes, "I feel really good," right? And when your OC says something like that, that's what makes me feel good, right? And then it comes down to the players make plays, right? There wasn't one person that came to the stands today, other than maybe my wife, right, to watch me coach. They come to watch players play, right? And I tell our players that all the time, right? On game day, they come to watch players play. They watch. That's what they come to the stadium to see, and there were a lot of guys that played today.
What differences maybe you see from both your lines, maybe from first half to the second half?
We played a lot of guys on both sides of the ball, so I think our depth is better. Ironically, I was listening to Coach Candle on a press conference earlier. I always listen to my opposing coaches, and he made a comment. Someone asked him about his roster, and he said, "I feel really good about our 1 through 50 or 1 through 60 being stronger than it's been," right? And I think the same thing here, right? Like we've been slowly building and developing, right? And I look at Kanena Odelaga, right? So he's a guy that started a game today, didn't have a lot of tackles, but his value and his role to this team today really doesn't show up in the stat sheet. But I think there's a kid that I think we literally called my first 2 weeks on the job that he was going, you guys probably know, wasn't he going to an Ivy or somewhere? Penn, he was going to Penn, right? And we called Jordan, his head coach, right, and said, hey, what do you think of this guy? And he comes into our program, he played for us last year, and now he's a significant player on a good football team. It's those little stories that are adding up to make us good.
Pitch-catch combination between Luke and Pat Bryant, something that just kind of happened instantly, or have you
Yeah.
seen that develop?
Yeah, I think it's not surprising to us. We've had a record for NFL scouts in our building this fall camp. It's been amazing. Last year we were like right around 30, and this year we had almost double the number in the same time frame. And so there's a group of kids that this is their third year, right? And Pat's in his third year, and I definitely don't want him to leave, but if he plays the way he's capable of playing, it's probably worth the conversation, right? And I've been waiting for this moment because he's big, he catches, Coach McDonald, who doesn't give out a lot of compliments, called him a complete wide receiver, and when Gio says that about somebody, that means something. I thought those three guys, Isaiah Williams, Casey Washington, and Pat Bryant, those are the best three receivers I've had at one time, since I've been here, maybe even really in my career, to have that many good players at one time, right? So I was really excited to see Henry Boyer get in there and do some things today, right? He brings a different level if he's in there. I thought some of our transfer players, I thought Clayton Bush and Demetrius Hill combined for one spot on defense that was really, really good. Saw some other guys that Denzel Daxon for sure played a lot of snaps, and on the offensive side, you saw some guys see their majority of their reps for the first time. I thought Reggie and Josh were pretty special in there.
Coach, it was Coach Henry's first game calling the plays on defense. Did it go pretty smooth for him? You think?
Yeah, I'm sure. There's some things Ahen and I that defense staff is just a lot of fun. I kept saying there's one guy in this field that'll beat us, right? Number 7 is a guy that could beat us. And in the first half, we let some things happen around the perimeter, around the edge, that we can't have happen. And I could have, I could have called the play for Toledo on the end, at the touchdown play. Like, he just gets that ball and goes around the right, and we have to learn, because this quarterback we're getting ready to face, whichever quarterback is at Kansas, whether it's the starter that started this past week, or if their main gun gets in there, whatever it is, they're going to be two really good quarterbacks we got to prepare for.
Thanks, guys.